Hello and welcome to the morning show team of Revsport. A very good morning to everyone present. Bharat, good morning and thank you for joining. Two big cricket matches going on. One is r- getting really excited, the Ashes, and India kind of on the dominating side. We'll talk about the Indian match first a bit, then we'll move on to the Ashes. It's really getting more exciting with yesterday what Crawley did. But India on the other side in West Indies, Rohit Sharma got the century in the previously now uh, 80. Virat Kohli on the verge of getting a century. But other than that, Yashasvi Jaiswal, he has been fantastic. So do you think he that is the positive side for India in this campaign? Because Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, okay, they have their names, but a young player like Yashasvi Jaiswal making their mark in abroad. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the best thing about Jaiswal is he always looks for, I guess, continuous improvement. When he first came on the scene in the IPL, it seemed as if he was getting rushed by pace. After that,
Hmm.
he's now playing the pull shot. If you look at some of the other young Indian players, they don't necessarily play the pull stroke. This guy has improved his pull shot. He plays horizontal bat shots. I think this will help him. Obviously, he will face better attacks with due respect to West Indies pace attack. They do have some good pace bowlers at home conditions, but this is clearly a flat pitch, so he will face better at slightly better attacks in tougher conditions. But so far so good. I think the best part about him is, as I said, he always looks for improvements in his game. It doesn't seem to be a player who is happy with whatever skills he has
Hmm.
currently. He always looks to make incremental improvements. And the best thing about him is he does play the full stroke. A lot of young Indian players currently coming to the ranks try to hike across the line, including Ishan Kishan. But
Hmm.
Jaiswal is different. So I think that is where he might go a long way, hopefully.
Absolutely. And another young player, Mukesh Kumar, do you have expectations from him in these conditions? Do you see him making the mark, taking the
Sure, it's
most of
very
his time?
yeah, but again, the good part about him is I think he hits the seam. In that sense, he's a bit like Mohammad Shami because he generally hits the seam of obviously not
Yeah.
as good as Shami, but he hits the seam. But this is clearly flat track. I don't understand West Indies in that sense because they have picked 3 4 fast bowlers. They won the toss and opted to field, and they went and have prepared a track without a blade of grass. So
Hmm.
maybe some Mehman Nawazi or whatever it is. The first test they have prepared a spin-friendly surface, and the second test they have prepared a surface where you don't blade of grass and still opted to field. So interesting that they've gone that way, but let's see. I'm not too sure this pitch is offering much for seamers, but there's rain
Hmm.
prediction. If rain comes, then you expect some moisture. If moisture is there, then
Hmm.
I think seamers would come into play. Again, that brings into the question West Indies' decision to field because there's nothing happening in the first session. There's no very little moisture, but they still opted to field. But that's the way they have gone.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on West Indies side? They have found out themselves outside the World Cup now playing this bilateral. Any positive changes in the team? Have you seen?
See, West Indies at home at least sorry they have been a
Yeah.
fighting unit because they won the Test series against England. Obviously, there's a different England Test side compared to what they are now. But they won the Test series. Before that, I think they drew a Test series with Pakistan, but at home. But a lot of
Hmm.
their success came on tracks like Saint Lucia, Grenada, Barbados, and Jamaica, where it did a bit of the seam. And
Hmm.
I don't think they had a chance against Indian team on a spin-friendly surface against Dominic, and again they have prepared a flat surface. But
Hmm.
West Indies Test team, I think, compared to the limited over sides, at least in the last couple of years, have put up a fight, at least in conditions where it has suited them. Uh, but their batting again is quite modest. A lot of
mm,
them average, even in first class cricket, average 30. The silver lining perhaps is that Ali Katniss, I've written a bit about him in the copy as well, my copy as well, that is someone who looks like has time on his hands. And then there's Kirk McKenzie also, I think, has some talent. But again, the support system is a worry for West Indies. These players perhaps don't have the necessary facilities or infrastructure to come through the ranks. For
mm.
example, an Indian player, even a domestic player, I think would be able to hire even a domestic player. I think I guess
Opportunity
would be
only.
able to hire ball feeders, and
Ah,
uh, machines. But when it comes to West Indies players, not too sure they would find it easy to do
mm,
that. So, do they have the support system infrastructure for these young players like Kirk McKenzie, Alec Echenese? There is one more guy called uh, McKenny Clark. I guess he has some pace, but
mm,
uh, they don't seem to nurture these players or able to harness the players' talents, and that is where I guess West Indies have a problem or two. Otherwise, they're still producing some talented players. Let's see how it goes, but it doesn't look good for them. But at least in Test cricket
mm,
compared to Labrador's cricket, I think the last 2 years they have at least seem like a fighting unit. That's what they showed
mm.
in the second session as well. After 121 for no loss, they took 4 wickets at least. But in these conditions, on a flat pitch, I don't think they have a hope to challenge it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty one-sided, but yeah, as you mentioned about the conditions and the facilities also, uh, when Clive Lloyd was on our channel, in that interview also he mentioned the same points. It is a problem for Western cricket, and again that point also comes that West Indies is not a country; it's a group of islands. So that federation problem is also there. Moving on to Ashes, it is getting a pretty exciting match, and this one England 317, and then Australia 317, and then England in reply 384. Now currently lead by 67 runs, and Crawley, an absolute baseball innings from Crawley. What are your thoughts? I think you are going to write a piece on Crawley also today.
Not necessarily on Crawley. Yeah, more of a larger picture. But Zach Cravley, I think in the last few months seems to have done some tweaks to his technique. I think that's where it is helping him. He seems to his stance seems to be slightly. It was very
Mm,
wide. It's not as wide as it used to be in his stance. And that's helping him
mm,
when it comes to playing deliveries outside his off stump. But see, Zach Cravley is someone is a loads of talent. If you go back even to
mm,
that Ahmedabad test on a turning pitch, even Joe Root looked completely out of sorts in terms of judging the length against Akshar Patel. The only guy in that both innings from England who judged the length was Zach Cravley. For the Indian team, it was Rohit Sharma. That is why both of them scored
mm,
50s. So it's a lot of skill. He scored a double hundred, I think, against Pakistan in 2020. But his problem was his technical, a couple of technical flaws. What used to happen is Zach Cravley was when deliveries were out. Sometimes he would have problems outside the off stump, so he used
mm,
to kind of rectify it. Then he used to have problems on the inside edge, and then he would again rectify it, and again problems would come on the outside. But he seems to have rectified it with stance. Yesterday he played brilliantly. Obviously, at his best, he plays those great drives. He's someone who can go across the stumps and play those shots in
mm.
somewhat reminiscent of Kevin Peterson when he plays like that. And obviously, Joe Root in his new avatar
That partnership also.
playing those scoop shot, he had a front on stance, slightly more front on stance. Maybe he was ready for Australians to bowl the short deliveries, and yesterday he really took on Australian bowlers' short deliveries, and that plan also
Mm,
went against them. And this is what Bass ball can do. And see, it rattles the opposition. Australian bowlers were bowling line and length. Suddenly, they started
mm,
when Moeen Ali also started to attack. They started bowling short deliveries. It was like more like uh, defensive fields, hoping that short delivery England batsmen will take on it and get out. So rattled minds, scrambled minds. So one can't underestimate this baseball thing because it definitely rattles opposition teams. At the same time, yeah, few journalists from England perhaps hype it a little bit, but definitely can't underestimate it because a lot of teams have got rattled by this tactics. And yesterday, obviously, without Nathan Lyon, Australia didn't have someone
Hmm.
who could keep the runs down, and with just three main bowlers and Mitchell Marsh and Cameron Green, it looked completely. They looked pretty modest yesterday, but again, Australia have some hope because it is on day four and day five. A lot of rain is predicted, so they might just at least escape with a draw and retain the Ashes.
Yeah, yeah. And in our group also yesterday we were talking. A thought came out that the England batters uh, mostly challenged, targeted Hazelwood and Cummins. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Josh Hazelwood perhaps is not at his absolute best, just like the England veteran James Anderson perhaps is not at his absolute best in this series.
Hmm.
Seems to have lost a little bit of nip, is perhaps not hitting the deck as hard as used to. If you remember 2005 Ashes, uh, English batters took on Jason Gillespie. He lost a little bit of nip. Josh Hazelwood also seems to have lost a little bit of nip, and England seemed to be deliberately targeting him. Pat Cummins, yeah, I think he got a lot of short deliveries. It worked for him and others at Lords, but here perhaps he didn't get it. Those short deliveries very high, and England batters definitely were ready for it this time around. That if you are going to ball short, we are going to. They were prepared. As I
Hmm.
said, Joe Root came with a different stance, slightly different stance. He wanted to go back and across because he knew that they were going to try short deliveries at him. I think that's the main difference because England were ready for what Pat Cummins was going to do. That was going to bang it short.
Absolutely. And do you see England winning this one? Where do you
Yeah,
see
that's
this
what I
going?
said. Yesterday, right at the end of the season, there were indentations. So I think if it goes to
Hmm.
5 days, England will win all 5 days.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of rain predicted on day four and day five. Even today, there's a little bit of rain predicted. So
Hmm.
Australia still might escape with a draw because I just looked at the forecast on day five. At least on
Hmm.
day four, almost entire day, rain is predicted. But if some play happens, with so much rain, there will be a little bit of moisture as well. And then, as I said, there were indentations. Joe Root got out an absolute grabber. The ball stayed very low. So England bowlers would be watching that. So if
Yeah.
say enough play, I think takes place in the next 3 days, England should win this because Australia also don't have a spinner. On the final day, if it goes to say England chasing 100, they don't have a spinner as well. Looking at all that, England should fancy their chances. But again, it depends on rain. A lot of rain is predicted in the next 2 3 days.
Hmm. Okay, let's see what happens. But it's the match is getting really excited, and I would want England to win this one. It will make the series way more exciting. And other updates for our viewers today: Satvik and Chirag is playing the quarterfinals in Korea Open versus the Japanese pair Kobayashi and Hoki. So let's see what happens. And another one, pretty disturbing situations going on in Manipur, and on that we have a couple of stories coming up, like how these political riots might have, is affecting the sports also. We have seen a lot of protests on grounds. Mirabai Chanu has come to social media seeking for help. So not some good things that is happening, and that should also be. Uh, and sports is a platform that the protests go on, and it has happened in past also. If you remember the black salute, I have read about it. So yeah, that's some bad scenes happening in social media. Bharat, have you seen? And we have the put out the piece also. Boryada has written a piece. We have some series of stories coming up. How these political riots are happening, are hampering the sports also. Any thoughts on that, Bharat? Before we end?
Not sure how much deep can I go into political side of things, but yeah, hopefully everything becomes fine. But it seems like we are in for a uh, this it seems like it won't end so soon. From what I heard, it's some kind of ethnic conflict or whatever. So
Yeah, no,
it could take.
that is a political side of it. But if you consider just sports, and we are a sports platform,
That,
it is
yeah.
hampering the sports also
Yeah,
because
we'll come to
lot
that.
of
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I said.
yeah.
If you look at the overall picture, so when you look at that overall picture,
Hmm.
and then you come down to the micro level about sports, then it perhaps won't be like it will you'll get a solution in a week or two or
Hmm.
something. Hopefully, as I said, again, I have to go into a little bit of political. Central government hopefully will step up. Hopefully, will step up, and it would get better for sports. But
Absolutely.
what I tried to say was, I
That
first
is
looked
the
at the macro level.
micro.
Micro level sports, when you
Yeah,
look at the macro level, it doesn't seem like there will be solution in say 5 days or 7 days or 2 weeks.
absolutely,
Hopefully,
absolutely.
in a few months' time, it would get better. That's the best I can tell. Staying some
Yeah,
thousands of kilometers away, that's the best I can perhaps tell.
absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, we have seen some protests also. Jackson Singh on the soft final, he has taken the Manipur flag. Mirabai Chanu has posted on social media. So we hope it really gets resolved soon. So thank you, Bharat, for joining. It was lovely talking to you,
Yeah,
and we'll be back again.
and also few days ago, you might have talked about it, but a few days ago, as you know, in Wimbledon, Alcaraz finally ended Djokovic's reign.
Ah,
And as I said a
finally,
few times,
finally, Alcaraz did it.
I said on Twitter and social media as well as in my copy that for the first time in 13 years, it felt like someone played better than Djokovic on the backhand side down the line and cross courted. Something that still astonishes me because having watched Djokovic, especially in Nadal, or for 50 matches or something, it never felt like Djokovic's backhand side would come under pressure. It came under pressure against someone. It always astonished me because if you look at
Yeah,
Even Google search, if you do before the final, even if I had written a preview copy, I would have
ah,
mostly concentrated on Alcaraz's forehand, but it was the
hmm.
backhand that absolutely stunned Djokovic. That's something that I guess I
It,
would
it,
remember it
it proved
forever.
like a killer for Djokovic.
In 2050, if Mr. Rohan comes and asks me about this match, I will talk about this backhand.
And absolutely, it was fantastic, man. We were in hotel in Bhubaneswar. We were in hotel in Bhubaneswar, and me, Trishadi, Orpada were all sitting together and cheering for Alcaraz. It was fantastic. 20 years old kid playing in a Wimbledon final against Djokovic. Fantastic match it was. And yes, your prediction came right. Alcaraz can win it, and he has proved it. So thank you, Bharat, for joining. It was lovely talking to you, and we'll be back again on Monday next week. Thank you.